Hello dear third grade students, welcome to another lesson about math. Before we start our lesson, try to prepare your book, your pencil, and of course a notebook to writing down notes on it. Today's topic, we're going to talk about compare and ordain fractions, page 141, 42, and 43. So before we start in our lesson, let's read the vocabulary words. Fraction, denominator, numerator. You already know these three words because we talked about them in the previous lesson. Fraction bar, this is a new word for you, fraction bar. Let's find out what's the fraction bar. Greater than, less than, equal to. Here, let's make a quick review about the numerator and denominator and where we can find them. Numerator, it's the number of the parts that it's shaded, or the used part, or the colored part. Here I have a pizza. I cut it into 4 equal pieces and I shade it, or I choose 3 parts of it. So I have to write down the 3 at the top of the fraction, while the 4 equal parts, the whole parts, here we have the word whole, means the total parts, I have to write it down at the bottom of the fraction. So it is 3/4, 3/4. Dears, remember that when you want to compare a number in math, you have to use these signs or symbols. We call them greater than or less than or equal to. The sign of equal, it's very clear and you can find out or you can recognize it very easily. But we have greater than and less than. Here we have to focus on the sides of the alligator, okay? The big sides or the big edge always will goes to the big number, okay? The big sides or the mouth of the alligator will eat the big or bite the big number, while the small edge will goes to the small number. For example, if I have number 6 and number 5, if I have number 6 and number 5, the big sides will goes to the big number. It will be like this. So 6 is greater than 5, or 5 is less than 6. This is how we do, or this is how we use the symbols for the greater than and less than and comparing numbers. Now, dears, it is time to learn how to compare fractions. For comparing fractions, we have some easy ways or rules that helps you to compare fractions very easily, to find out which fraction is greater than the other one or which one is less than the other one. First of all, we have the rule of same numerator. Rule of the same numerator. How? Look at these two fractions. We have the same numerator, right? The top is the same, 3, 3. In this case, we have to look at the bottom. We have to look at the denominator. Which one is smaller? We have 4 here and 6 here. If we have the same numerator and the denominator, they are different, we have to look at the denominator. The denominator will decide that which one is greater, which one is smaller or less. So the smaller, be careful with this word, the smaller denominator is greater fraction. The smaller denominator between 4 and 6, which one is smaller? So 4 is smaller. So the smaller denominator is greater fraction. So here, which one is greater? 3/4 or 3/6? Because here the numerator are the same, so we are looking at the denominator. The smaller one is the greater fraction. So 3/4 is the greater fraction. We have another rule, which is same denominator. In this case, we have the same denominator. If we have the same denominator, we are looking at the top numerator. In this case, the numerator will decide which one is greater. Be careful because there is a very big difference between the same denominator and the same numerator. In the same denominator, when you looked at the top or at the numerator, the larger numerator is greater fraction. In this case, the one that's a big number will be a greater fraction. Here, 4 and 3. Which one is greater? 4, of course. So in this case, the larger numerator, 4, is the greater fraction. So 4/5 is greater than 3/5. Or you can read it like 3/5 is smaller or less than 4/5. Dears, we have another way for comparing fraction, which is drawing models or using fraction bars. You can use fraction bars to compare fractions or draw a model. How? Look at these two fractions. We want to compare the fraction to see that which one is greater or which one is less, or if they are equal. Look at it. First of all, let's do the same that we learned in the previous slide, which is looking that we have the same numerator. In this case, the denominator will decide that which one is greater. Look at it. We said that the smaller or the less number will be the greater fraction. In this case, 3/8 is greater than 3/10. Look at the models too. Be careful while you're deciding to use a model or to use the fraction bar. They should be the same size. Both of the fractions should be the same size. Here we have, or the same larger. We have two circles, okay? We decide to cut or to divide these two circles. The first one we decided to cut it or to divide it into 8 equal parts, while the same circle we have to divide it into 10 equal parts. Be careful. Both of the circles, they should be equal sides, okay? Look at the shaded parts or the yellow parts. Which one? Just look at it. Which one is greater? 3/10 is greater or 3/8 is greater? I'm sure that all of you will choose 3/8 because the yellow parts in the 3/8 is greater than the yellow parts in 3/10. Now let's compare another example. Open your books on page 141. Let's compare 2/5 and 3/5. Look at the fraction bar. Only by looking at the fraction bar you can find out that which one is greater. I'm sure that all of you will say that 3/5 is greater because here we have 3 colored tallies, but here we have only 2 colored tallies, so 3 is greater than 2. Or you can look at the fraction and find out that we have the same denominator. In this case, the numerator will decide which one is greater. And if you remember, we said that if we have the same denominator and the numerator, the big numerator will be greater fraction. Here 3 is greater than 2. So in this case, 3/5 is greater than 2/5. We can write down fraction or comparing fraction in 2 ways. You can write down the greater number at the beginning and saying 3/5 is greater than 2/5, or writing the less number or the small number at the beginning and saying 2/5 is less than 3/5. Now let's go to B. Compare 4/6 and 2/3. If you remember, I told you that when you use a model or using a fraction bar, you have to have the same size of it, okay? Here we have two fraction bar, okay? You have to use the same length. We have 4/6. That means I have 6 equal parts, right? I should have 6 equal parts. And I shaded or I colored 4 parts of it, okay? One note before ending this example is that the denominator and numerator of both of the fractions are totally different. We don't have the same denominator or the same numerator. So be careful with this example. Look at the 2/3. You may ask that I have 2/3, so why I have 4 equal parts? Or I have 6 equal parts, sorry. Be careful, we are not looking at the 6 equal parts. Look at the 3 equal rectangles, okay? You have to have the same size. So in this case, they put 2 tallies inside each rectangles to show you that each rectangles or each parts of the 2/3 will be equal to 2 parts of the 4/6. Okay, look at the shaded part. They are the same shaded parts, right? Look at the size of it. They are the same shaded parts. So in this case, we can say that they are equals. So 4/6 is equal to 2/3. Dear students, we have so many more examples to explaining and comparing the fractions. Here, number 1, only by looking at the models or the two circles you can find out which one is greater. Here the green parts is greater or more than the green parts in 1/4. Or looking at the denominator, because denominator is the same, numerator will decide which one is greater. 2 is greater than 1, so 2/4 is greater than 1/4. Number 2, only by looking at the yellow parts you can find out which one is greater. So 5/6 is greater than 3/6. And this is the answer of the rest of the questions. You can find out by yourself, then check your answer at the next or at the... Now darlings, let's answer some question in your book. Open your books on page 142. Let's do number 1. Tell me, 2/3 of a fraction is greater than 1/3 of it, or it's less than. Look at the fraction bar or look at the model. Which one is greater? 1 part of 3 parts or 2 parts of 3 parts? Of course, because we have the same denominator, the numerator will decide, and 2 is greater than 1. Go to number 2. We have 2/5 of a number and 3/5 of a number. So which one is greater? Because we have the same denominator, the numerator will decide which one is greater. So 3 is greater than 2, so 3/5 is greater than 2/5. Look at the third one. We have 3/4 and 3/6. Here the numerator is the same, so the denominator will decide which one is greater. Be careful, we said that if the numerator is the same, so the smallest denominator will be greater fraction. Here between 4 and 3, which one is smaller? 4 is smaller. So in this case, 3/4 is greater than 3/6. Let's answer the rest of the question. Number 4. 1/2 is greater than or less than 1/4. Look at the fraction bar. So of course 1/2 is greater. In number 5, we have a mistake because the picture of the fraction bar is totally different from the fractions itself. So we are not going to do number 5 because we don't have the same models and the same fractions. Number 6, 5/8 is greater than 3/12, or it's less than. Of course it is greater. Because look at the model, we have 5 equal parts and here we have only 3 equal parts, and when you compare the shaded parts, 5/8 is greater. Number 7, Neshmil says that 5/10 is greater than 5/6 because 10 is greater than 6. Do you agree or disagree? Explain. Of course, you have to be not agree with her because look at the same, we have the same numerator. Look at the denominators. Okay, in this case, the denominator will decide that which one is greater. And because 6 is the smaller number, we said that the denominator, if we have the smaller denominator, the smaller denominator will be the greater fraction. So in this case, 5/10 is less than 5/6. Okay, so 5/6 is greater than 5/10. Complete the pattern. So we have 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. So we have to have 6/8, 7/8. Now let's do the last one. Which of the following is wrong? Be careful, we have another mistake here because we have more than one wrong answer. We have to say that which of the following is true. Look at it and decide which one is true. 30, let's start from D. 36 is equal to 4/8, or 2/5 is greater than 4/5, or 38 is smaller than or less than 4/8, or 3/4 is equal to 6/8. Of course, not D, not C, not B. So A is the correct answer.